sacks without breaking a sweat in this offense. And they need 3 edge rushers, and McDonald could go into a role with a little less pressure that he'll be a little more comfortable in. I don't think it immediately means you have to cut JFM. Now, could he have a pay cut in a reduced role? Potentially, but you want as many bodies up front as possible rotating through here, especially because a guy like Kinlaw is still a little bit of a wild card. Clemens really isn't a guy you want playing any meaningful snaps next to Quinnen. So hopefully they can find a way to make that work. But I mean, Reddick, and it's going to make Jermaine Johnson better too, because the attention that Reddick's going to get is just going to free Jermaine up to probably be a double-digit sack guy himself this year. And Saleh and Whitecotton have to be absolutely ecstatic about this. We've heard what Saleh said about Reddick in the past. I mean, this is his dream front, and this defense is going to be really damn good. So then it just becomes a matter of, can this offense produce and give them a lead to protect, which they should be able to. So, it's exciting. And, this kind of stumped Will and I, and we got a Discord question to the effect of this. When you look at the Jets, like top 7-ish players, and you look at their best players at like premium positions, how do they kind of start to rank league wide? How do they rank in the AFCs? When you say our best edge rusher is Hassan Reddick, our best interior rusher is Quinnen Williams, our best corner is Sauce Gardner, our best offensive lineman is Tyron Smith, our quarterback is Aaron Rodgers, our best wide receiver is Garrett Wilson, our best offensive playmaker is Breece Hall. Holds up pretty well,
right?
Especially in their division, and not too terribly league-wide. Now, the fair caveat is, how many games is Tyron Smith playing? Aaron Rodgers hasn't been Aaron Rodgers in like 2 years, and he's going to be 41. Who's taking the heat off of Garrett Wilson at receiver? Mike Williams isn't healthy. Who's rushing alongside Quinnen? I mean, you can't nitpick all of them, but it's not a perfect roster. We know there's still work to be done, but I mean, overall, especially in the AFC, you put the Chiefs aside because the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and no matter what they have on paper with Mahomes and Reed, they're going to be there in the end. It holds up pretty damn well, at least in this 1 year window, 1.5, 2 year window. There's not a lot that's guaranteed better than that around the NFL.
Well, the key there is kind of how you framed it to show that they're a little top heavy, right? Where they're top heavy with players that are vulnerable to missing games. And that's what scares you, because it looks really pretty on the Madden roster, but week 6 of the NFL is Tyron Smith, Aaron Rodgers. I know he's young, but like even Breece Hall, who's a running back, anything can happen, are all those guys. Basically, it's the old, shit happens. And I think that the depth you supplement your great position areas with will be the difference in this season. And that depth comes from this draft. Like that, there's no other way to say it. So it's a really interesting point. People could say it with their chest, like the Jets have a good roster, right? And I think after this trade, people kind of went, oh, like the Jets have a good roster. There are concerns because we think Tyron Smith will miss time. We think Aaron Rodgers could get hurt. These things I think the big one that you keep, banging the drum on that's spot on is it cannot just be just Garrett Wilson. And how your path to, is Mike Williams going to be good to go? Can he stay healthy throughout the entire season? Who's the depth around him? It's probably the 72nd pick in the draft, but we'll see. And do you nail that 72nd pick? You should. Do you take another receiver in the 4th? Probably should. Honestly, give yourself a little insurance. So I think that's what's so fascinating about it is the Jets are very good on paper, and the Jets unfortunately have missed throughout a couple of drafts in the Douglas era that they don't have the depth that you would hope they have, but now they have a chance in this draft to, and that's why you hear, I know Rich Semenia said this week, and this has been the big thing around Joe Douglas and the Jets. I've been saying the same thing. Like they probably would love to get out of the 10th overall pick if it brought a second rounder back, because realistically, outside of them taking Brock Bowers, there's almost no pick at 10 that's in the cards that you're going, that guy's a day one starter and has a massive role in his play. Even if you took Rome Odunze or Brian Thomas Jr., if Mike Williams was healthy, that's the third wide receiver. It matters a lot, but it's not. If you take Fuanga, is he fighting to start on the offensive line? Maybe fighting, but he's not. He's a right tackle that could play right guard. Is he supplanting Morgan Moses or Elijah Vera Tucker? No.
No.
You take Fatanu. okay, I would let him fight like hell because I think he's a better player than John Simpson. But he's not. You're not saying, well, this guy's our starting left tackle or left guard out of the gate. So that's why you look at it and go, the depth they can get if they had that extra second rounder from round 1, 2, and 3 is really, really important to this team because their front line guys are really, really good. But when the charge comes, guys in the front lines are going to get hurt. They are going to miss time. This is the NFL. Some guys are going to miss the entire year at some point, and it's a tough pill to swallow, but that's the reality. It is a war of attrition, and that's where the Jets are right now is when they play what we think could be January football, there could be names out there that didn't even play 10 snaps in September, and that's the battle that they are facing right now as we sit here in the spring.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's still depth work to do with this roster. They need a good draft, and not just at the top of the draft. They need contributors on day 2 and day 3. They still have work to do in the veteran market as well. I think everyone would feel better if they added a guy like Andres Pete or Bakhtiari to their depth on the offensive line.
I forgot about Bakhtiari and all
this. He could still be there. You could sign him in July and he could come in and, could he start 3 games off the bench for you if you don't go offensive line in round 1? You need a starting safety. It doesn't seem like Ashton Davis is going to come back. Not that he's even really starting safety either way. Can you get Simmons? Can you get Quandre Diggs? Can you get Marcus May? Bringing him back from McCagden? Like, they need a starting safety still. They need a backup running back. Now, there's not a ton of urgency there. You could get him in June. It could be Zeke. It could be J.K. Dobbins. It could be someone else. But there's still work to be done on that depth and middle class of the roster, because you put all the MetLife turf and the Jets' bad luck aside, like, people are going to get hurt and they're going to miss games. It's just part of the NFL now. How do you really round this out now, since they've done good work on the top part of the roster, and still time to tweak and improve things across the draft and free agency. We're 3.5 weeks out now. We're in April. We're recording this April 1st, so the draft is creeping up on us. I guess at this point, like, what we were wrong when we recorded last week. Like, it's going to be quiet until the NFL draft. Sure enough, we get the Reddick trade. What do you think there is to look out for over these next 3.5 weeks going to the NFL draft? What kind of chatter, what kind of rumors? Is there any other transactions? Or now do we really think after this move, it's like stand pat and wait and see how the draft lands?
I would imagine these couple weeks, you're already trying to map out the blueprint of what trades look like on draft night, because the unpredictable nature of this draft means everybody has to be prepared for every scenario to run that fax machine, because you're not on the clock very long. So you're literally making deals right now that are just, hey, if this is the scenario, especially for the Jets, right? Because, all right, let's just say hypothetically, Caleb Williams is the number 1 pick. We'll say, I don't know, Drake May goes 2nd overall. Jaden Daniels goes 3rd overall. And then somebody trades with Arizona takes a wide receiver. And then the Chargers trade out of the pick to let the Vikings come up, for McCarthy. And then the Giants take a wide receiver. The Titans take Alt. Now you have Atlanta, Chicago, and the Jets. And Denver and the Raiders have not gotten a quarterback. So Michael Penix is in play in that scenario. You still have all the linemen on the board besides Alt. Roma Dunze is on the board. And every defensive player in the draft is on the board for Atlanta, Chicago, and the Jets. Like, you need to figure out, if you're the Jets, if Roma Dunze makes it to you, well, what's our grade on Roma Dunze? Do we evaluate Roma Dunze as as this? Well, if we don't, well, we know that Jacksonville wants to come up for Roma Dunze. We're happy to move back to 17. We're going to get that 2nd round pick. And at 17, we like, Fatanu and, Brian Thomas Jr. and a couple other guys. And then in the 2nd round, here's the guys we like at wide receiver and offensive line. In the 3rd round, here's the safety or corner or whatever that we like. You are literally just going through, it's human simulations with actual people instead of a computer. You're like, okay, these are all and you are also running computer models to give you simulations as well. So that's the tricky part for the Jets, where they're not just sitting there and going, well, if we get an offer to trade out, we take it. Well,
yeah.
Is Brock Bowers there? Well, we love Brock Bowers. Is, Talisa Fuanga there? Well, we love Talisa Fuanga. We thought he was a top 6 player and we got him at 10. Like, we're not moving. Oh, all the players we liked are gone. and we have an offer from, let's get like really crazy here for a second and say, let's say someone really deep, like a Baltimore at 30, which this shouldn't happen, but okay, we moved all the way back to 30. This is a totally different tier of the draft. Now we're looking more developmental tackle or wide receiver, or we might even go really, really off the board here and, end up taking something else. So that's really what these 3 weeks are for. Yeah, you brought up like a name like Andrews Pete. It wouldn't shock me if the Jets make some kind of depth signing the next 3 weeks that is guaranteed to be on the roster in most scenarios. But now you're in the phase of trying to figure out, what do you need? What are the different sections of the draft? What are the deals that are going to be on the table in different scenarios? And all of that is really based on how these quarterbacks go. So if you're a Jets fan, you want the top 4 quarterbacks locked into the top 5 picks, because that's going to push Michael Penix up into the top 15 of this draft. And then those teams that might have fallen in love with Michael Penix, like a Denver and Vegas, well, if Minnesota didn't get out of 11, they need to jump Minnesota, because Minnesota's going to take a quarterback at 11 in that scenario. So I know it's like a lot of word salad, but that's the job of being a GM in April, is you are running a real life and digital simulator every hour of your day.
Let's be ready for all scenarios here. And I said this over the weekend. I think we don't have to go too deep down the Joe Douglas rabbit hole. I think, as we've said, some fans have been a little too praiseworthy and a little too defensive of any criticism of him because of his record, right? Like we just I can't put him there as an all-time great GM or one of the best GMs in the NFL with a 27-56 record. I just can't. And I understand there's context to that record and things happen. At the end of the day, fair or unfair, you're evaluated on your record. And he also is accountable for the coaching staff. He manages the coaching staff. He hired the coaching staff. That is the Jet structure at the moment. That being said, for where we've been critical, he's done a good job this offseason doing something that we've talked about a lot, being creative and having plan Bs. Right. And finding a right tackle in a way we didn't think he would, going to trade for Morgan Moses, and being able to close and get it done with Tyron Smith and Mike Williams. And everyone agrees it sucks they lost Bryce Huff, but they found a creative way to, in the 1 to 2 year window, fill it as good as they possibly could. So they were not caught flat-footed this year, and he has now set them up with a lot of top-heavy elite players at key positions, which is all you can ask for. Now, there's more work that needs to happen the next month or two, and there's still questions about certain parts of this roster. There's certainly plenty of questions about the coaching staff, but considering the circumstance and what this team was built to do with Aaron Rodgers, he's handled this offseason, I would say, about as well as you could have asked for. It's really hard to poke too many holes in it, and we'd be happy to poke
pre-draft.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I really do. And we're never going to, if you listen to us, we're never going to go over our skis to be like, this was the best offseason ever. They're infallible. We're not going to go the other way and just criticize it for the sake of criticizing it. Like, it's been a very good offseason for this team with Aaron Rodgers that needs to win right now. And it's good and it's exciting, and the fans should be excited about it. And now we should be able to kind of turn that focus to the draft. But this roster on paper is a roster that's good enough to win the AFC East. And if you're good enough to win the AFC East, that means you have a home playoff game. And that is a more significant achievement than just taking advantage of 7 teams making the playoffs and squeaking in at 9-8 and getting blown out by 30 on the road in week 1. They're good enough to be better than that this year with how the roster has come together. So that's my final word, CR. Any final thoughts from you?
I think the final thoughts is, and you highlighted this, I want to give credit to it. All December, January, February, we're like, what's the trades, right? What is the trades? And they found the trades. They traded for Morgan Moses. They traded for Hassan Reddick. They didn't give up anything of value at all to get those guys. That was an area that Joe Douglas needed to evolve as a GM. And I think you can argue those are good trades, right? You don't ever want to be in the business of just always trading for guys on the downside of their career. But I think when you look at the structure of the trades, the money involved in those players, and the needs the Jets have, those are the trades. So it's good to see them, really get that right and bring that back to a franchise that I think has, quite honestly, not used that in their arsenal at all. And with the trade deadline moved back this year, it's going to be a big thing. The deadline, is there going to be something that you need that needs patching, and how do you react to that as well? So I think that's a really, really positive sign for the Jets, is that, we see a lot of the good teams work the trade market by, you're almost just taking on money because the pick cost is not really that significant because of the money, but you could find the right players in the trade market. And I think Hassan Reddick and Morgan Moses are the right players.
Amen. All right. Again, if you haven't yet, this is the month to upgrade to War Room. Get the extra bonus episode we did about the wide receiver class. Get the draft guide, which will hit about 10 days before the draft. Come hang draft night, little live pod, some food and drink specials, some raffles, some good stuff. The whole gang will be there, outside of CR, of course, who's going to be working, but we'll be watching him on TV. We'll be doing our own version of working. That's badlandstoj.com. We'll also still have our quarter zips for sale there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Get those pick'ems in on Underdog. Use promo code Badlands to sign up. We'll have another draft hitting soon. I think we knocked out 4 in March, so we're gonna get another 3 or 4 definitely going in April, and only more as the season gets closer. So again, that's Underdog with promo code Badlands. Thank you. Enjoy your week, and we will talk to you soon.